Good afternoon, everyone. So we're here to talk about net zero, which is a fairly overused topic right now, but I hope I can capture just a few interesting topics that you can take away and consider as part of your own journey to reducing energy wastage at your schools. We talked a lot this morning about the digitisation of the world post-COVID, and there's a digitisation of energy happening around us, and one of the key focuses that we have as an organisation is how do we allow schools to tackle energy wastage? And there's a stat out there at the moment which talks about £150 million worth of cash being wasted in addition to a vast carbon footprint that is unnecessary, that schools could have an impact on. I think when you consider it as part of a isolated incident in a school, you're talking about a £20,000 net cash influx that you could be receiving to reinvest in your own organisations per school. So when I talked this morning a little bit about how much wastage happens in a school after the school's closed, it's easy to see how these numbers rack up. So 25% of your school's energy is consumed when you're closed. 60% is consumed after teaching. So when teaching finishes, over half your school's energy is still being consumed. But the biggest problem is you can't manage any of this if you can't measure where your energy is being consumed. And we know for sure, without question, that 95% of all schools have no idea where they're consuming their energy because they don't have the technology embedded in their school buildings to see where and when certain assets, whether it's lighting, whether it's the hand dryers in the toilets, whether it's the projectors, are on, how they're consuming energy, and therefore where the big offenders are. 50% of a school's energy is lighting, and yet 8 out of 10 schools still haven't moved to LED lighting solutions. So the prize is really big. You're talking about a 40% total reduction in your energy bill that's possible without the need for investing your own capital. And it shouldn't be the case that you're waiting around for elusive government grants, because schools have got to take initiative and do this themselves. Something like 97% of all PSDS grants for the education sector were rejected last year, and it's not set to be dramatically different going forward. There isn't an environment where the Treasury has enough money, full stop, for the public sector. So our job is to try and navigate our customers in the public sector, and we work across everything from the NHS through to local authorities, but schools is our passion because we think that engendering a culture of energy efficiency should start with our schools. When you look at lighting, for example, you're able to release 25% of your top line just as a result of moving to light as a service, which is something I'll talk to you about in a second. But for every classroom you've got, by moving to LED, you can expect to save 10 trees. And this is a really big emotive type subject because it's something you can really engage your pupils with at great length and as part of a sort of a carbon journey. Visualizing energy consumption and understanding where your energy consumption is being used has been proven to allow organisations to visually change how they're consuming by about 10%. So what does this mean? It really means if you can see that, for example, there are certain things on in your school when you're closed, you can turn them off. You can turn things down. You can switch things off. Just having visualization of that data is really important. There's another big concept at the moment, which is rip everything out, invest in energy efficiency and start again. But actually, most of the school portfolios that are more than 10 years old have a massive opportunity at the moment to optimize what they've got, turning dumb buildings into smart buildings. These are quite complex initiatives, but relatively low capital. And one of the services we are looking to provide now is how can we optimize using controls your buildings to achieve further reductions. But the problem is, within schools we're in a landscape where there's funding restrictions. There's funding, there's funding restrictions around available funding and how you can use third-party commercial funding within the restrictions. And I think that there is also a fear that energy efficiency is a bit elusive. How can you prove the savings? How do you know what to invest in? So there's this really complex landscape. And most schools don't have complex energy departments to run and manage what is essentially a fairly big sustainability goal. So what we do at eEnergy is we take our customers on what we call a carbon waterfall. So on the left-hand side of this graph, what you can see is a school's carbon footprint. And our goal is to get you to as close to net zero as we possibly can and remove as much carbon and cost as we can from your school. So the first thing we usually do is identify whether or not you're buying green energy. Because if you're buying brown energy, that should stop. Because there's no reason not to buy green energy. And you shouldn't be concerned about whether you're paying 1 or 2p per kilowatt more for brown energy, rather for green energy than brown, because actually what you should be caring about is how do you reduce your consumption. Reducing your consumption is the biggest value driver in this carbon waterfall. The second thing we do is give visualization to energy data by putting our smart metering platform in, which is on a subscription model. And it's as little as £10 per month per distribution board in your school. And what that allows us to do is identify where your wastage is coming from and show you what energy conservation measures we can deliver to you as a result of a subscription share of savings model. So in this graph, in case you can't see, you've got a right-hand column here talking about the value, the cash value that we can unlock over 10 years. So this is a large 1,500 person secondary school, has a £250,000 total energy bill, and over a 10-year horizon, we can identify a £1.1 million energy cash saving. So it's a big number. So if you multiply that by the number of schools in your portfolio, you can start to get a measure of how much economically this could be worth, as well as the sustainability goals that you could achieve. In terms of demand reduction, there are 3 or 4 key things that every school should be thinking about. One is a switch to LED lighting is an obvious choice. The second, after lighting, is looking at optimizing your buildings through controls and smart technologies which allow your school to work more efficiently before you start ripping out the old heating systems. And then lastly, on-site generation. We've got to a sweet point now in solar where actually every school should be looking to have on-site generation. Another interesting stat, if a primary school has 2 teachers turn up for 2 to 3 days a week and charge their electric car for 3 hours, the primary school's electricity bill that year will double. So, given what we're dealing with energy prices right now, it won't take long for the penny to drop where people are not buying diesel cars in the short term. This isn't going to be a slow transition over the next few years. Your demands on your building as a result of electrification of cars and electrification of heating is going to go through the roof. And your schools won't be able to cope with that. So you're going to need to think about having that independence of energy coming from solar assets that you own or that you are using through a service agreement. So one of the things we've been talking about is getting access to your energy data. And we have a proprietary platform called MyZero. And this allows effectively for your school to visualize whether it's in reception or whether that's to your governors, whether it's to your C-suite kind of executives, exactly how you're consuming and therefore the behavioural changes you need to embrace in order to move forward on your net zero journey. And when you look at any one of these areas, you can see how this happens very quickly. And we're talking about being able to implement these sorts of changes to your schools within 2 to 3 weeks of an assessment. After we've given you the data, the first thing we always do is switch you to LED as a service. So lighting as a service, we've worked with over 400 schools now and invested over £50 million into light as a service solutions. We've talked then about how we optimise your buildings, and the essence of everything we do is we take the risk. So we are investing in these assets on your behalf, you're sharing in the savings, you're releasing net cash. So as much as I don't like to say this, it's a win-win for both the environment, the school, and us as the service provider, because economically we're all taking a share of the savings for delivering a strategy to net zero. We've just got an example of here of how a sort of a light as a service solution would work if you were to switch through a subscription service. On the left is your existing costs in black, and as you move to the LED solution, your costs of running your old lighting solution have come down by about 75%. Your new electrical bill for running your new LED solution is therefore much lower. and the two green lines are the project savings. And you're paying the service provider, i.e. eEnergy, from those savings and releasing that net cash. So an average school switching to LED lighting as a service will generally unlock somewhere between £10,000 and £20,000 of cash on day one, in year one, and that will then rise as electricity prices increase. So our fees are fixed. You take the benefit of rising electricity costs. And at the end of the 7 years, the technology stays in situ and you take full advantage of all the future savings. So, in terms of credibility, we're a public company, listed on the London Stock Exchange. We've invested over 50 million. We've got national coverage. We've worked with over 400 schools. Would like to start a conversation. So hopefully, thought-provoking for you as an organisation. You don't need to rely on grants, and you don't need to rely on investing your capital, which are better placed to go and work for evolving your other capital requirements. And in the words of Greta Thunberg, never too small to make a difference. Thank you.